My fiancée left me because she said she wanted to experience being single. Months later, she showed up at my door pregnant, swearing the baby was mine, despite openly dating other guys during that time. My name is Ethan Ramirez. I'm 27 years old now. And for nearly 5 years I thought I had life figured out. I met Chloe Morales back in high school. Junior year for me, sophomore for her. I can still see it like yesterday. I was standing outside the chemistry lab, palms sweating, heart racing, trying to work up the courage to ask her if she wanted to grab a coffee after school. When she smiled and said yes, it felt like my entire world shifted. That day, I walked the halls like I was floating, unable to wipe the grin off my face. We grew up together in the truest sense of the phrase. She was my first serious love, my partner through the ups and downs of teenage years into adulthood. By my early 20s, we were engaged and living together in a modest apartment on the east side of town. It wasn't luxurious, peeling paint in the hallway, pipes that made noise in the winter, but it was ours and that made it perfect. I was working full-time at a small manufacturing company my uncle had helped me get into. The job wasn't glamorous, but it paid steadily and came with health benefits, which at that age felt like striking gold. Chloe was still in school, finishing her degree in psychology. We had our routines. Fridays were our nights. Sometimes we'd try a new restaurant, catch a movie, or go bowling. Other times we'd keep it simple with takeout burgers and a corny romantic comedy at home. We bickered about the usual nonsense. Who forgot to pick up milk, whose turn it was to do the dishes, but nothing ever serious. At least, that's what I believed. Then came that night. It was a Wednesday in March. I had just come home from work, boots off, halfway down some pointless YouTube rabbit hole, when Chloe walked in. Immediately, I knew something was wrong. Her eyes were red, her shoulders tense, her whole body radiating unease. "Ethan, we need to talk," she said, her voice already cracking. What followed was 15 minutes of tears and half-formed explanations until finally she dropped the bomb. "I love you, but we got together too young. I need to be single for a while." At first, I thought she was joking. We were engaged. We shared a home. We had plans for kids. You don't just throw all that away because you suddenly want to be single. I scrambled, trying everything I could think of. I suggested giving her space, pausing the wedding plans, even encouraging her to take more trips with her friends. But she shook her head again and again, as if she was already halfway out the door in her mind. Finally, I asked the question I dreaded most. "Is this about you wanting to date other people?" She swore up and down there was no one else. Then, after a pause that felt like it split me open, she admitted quietly, "I just want to see what's out there." It felt like my chest collapsed in on itself. My ears were ringing. I told her to stop with the "I still love you" lines and grabbed my keys before I said something I'd regret. I ended up crashing at my buddy Marco's apartment for 3 days, because the thought of being in our home without her was unbearable. She called. She texted. I blocked her on everything, phone, Instagram, even email. I wish I could say I moved on quickly, but the truth is I spiraled. I lost my appetite, drank too much, spent countless nights lying awake staring at the ceiling, asking myself what I had done wrong. When I finally dragged myself back to the apartment, most of her belongings were gone. There was a note on the counter, saying she was staying with her friend Isla. I crumpled it before even finishing. Life eventually started to settle into a dull rhythm. The pain dulled, though it never fully disappeared. I was finally beginning to piece myself back together, until 6 months later, there was a knock at my door. I opened it and there she was, Chloe. Pregnant. Her hair was shorter, her face rounder, her figure wrapped in a maternity dress. But it wasn't her appearance that floored me. It was the words that came out of her mouth the moment I opened the door. "Ethan, it's yours." I froze. She repeated herself, resting a hand on her stomach like a prop in a rehearsed scene. I didn't move, didn't blink. Finally, I said flatly, "Chloe, you left me to see what's out there. And now you're standing here, pregnant, asking me to believe this is mine? What exactly makes you think that?" Her eyes brimmed with tears, like she'd been practicing this moment in her head and couldn't understand why I wasn't following the script. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I thought I wanted to be single, but I just messed everything up. I went on dates, but nothing felt right. I thought maybe if I came back. I cut her off. You chose to leave. You wanted to explore. Now you're in trouble, and you think you can just stroll back into my life like nothing happened? Do I look like a backup plan to you? She flinched. No, I know the timing looks bad. But this happened after I realized I wanted us again. I laughed. Not the warm kind of laugh, but cold and sharp. So let me get this straight. You dump me, go see what's out there, end up pregnant, and then suddenly decide you want us again. That's not love, Chloe. That's desperation. She tried to reach for my arm, but I stepped back. I'm not raising another man's kid just because you regret your choices. Her tears turned to anger instantly. You're unbelievable. I came here vulnerable, trying to fix things, and you treat me like garbage. I told you it's yours because it is yours. We were still together when it happened. I stared at her hard, my stomach twisting. Then you won't mind taking a DNA test. That shut her up. She looked down, fidgeting with her hands. I don't think that's necessary. I know it's yours. Yeah, I said. And I know how calendars work. We broke up in March. It's October. Even if you'd been pregnant back then, you would have told me months ago, unless you had something to hide. Her face flushed red. Fine. If you want a test, we'll do a test. She stormed off, muttering about me being paranoid. The results came back. 0% chance the baby was mine. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't even feel angry. I just felt empty. Like the final thread of hope I'd been clinging to was gone. That night she called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. I didn't know, she said immediately. I swear, Ethan, I thought there was a chance. No, Chloe, I said quietly. You knew. That's why you fought against the test. You just hoped I'd be desperate enough to take you back without asking questions. Silence. Then sobbing. I can't do this alone. I let the words hang. Finally, I said, then you should have thought about that before burning every bridge you had. And I hung up. Small-town gossip spreads fast. At first, some people pitied her. But once the truth came out, that the real father had wanted nothing to do with her or the baby, that sympathy evaporated. Meanwhile, I rebuilt. I got promoted at work. I started hitting the gym again. I even took a trip to Denver just because I could. Slowly, piece by piece, I found myself again. Almost a year later, I ran into Chloe at the grocery store. She had the baby in the cart, looking exhausted and older than her age. Life had clearly taken its toll. She tried to smile. Hi, Ethan. I nodded. Chloe. Her eyes softened, searching for the boy who used to love her. But all she found was the man who had finally learned his worth. I paid for my groceries, walked out, and didn't look back.